So this is Bovada's Zone Poker, which is their version of Full Tilt's Rush Poker or PokerStars Zoom Poker. I've had a little bit of success in it. Started out playing the 5-cent ones and have just kind of built up. I've made, I guess, somewhere around $200 in the last week playing these quarter games. I found that a lot of people play too tight. It's like they're just waiting for the most premium hands. So when I get things like suited connectors in late position, and you get those open raise from early position, I like to call, even though you know you're behind pre-flop, because post-flop, you stand to hit really hard and stack them. So, and if you catch a a 7 or an 8 on the flop, and you've got 8-7, you're not really going to get real committed if they keep firing at you. It's easy enough just to fold. But if you happen to hit your straight or your flush or a good draw to it, then you're almost guaranteed to get paid off. So I'm going to stop talking so much, do a little more thinking. I do have a massive attack radio going in the background here. I prefer a raise here, simply because if he has an ace, then my ace is certainly beat. And if I hit that ace on the flop, now if he checks to me, I can continuation bet. If he checks, or if he bets, I can fold. But I'm representing something right in this range here, so I'm going to bet what I would normally bet, a little over, maybe half to 2/3, somewhere in there, and he goes away. And it's really just representing, the kind of thing that's on the board. Whenever you raise pre-flop, it looks like you have big cards. Big cards come on the board. If you don't bet, it either looks like you're trying to trap, and you're not going to get any money out of them anyway, or they're going to recognize it as weakness and an attack on the turn. So just go ahead and make that c-bet. It looks like I'm thinking about this. I know I'm going to fold it. I almost want to call it just to see if I get lucky on the flop, but that's a terrible way to play poker. Don't ever play just to try to get lucky. It's really, since I just sat down here, I'm playing a little tighter than I normally would. I'll play a lot of just garbage in late position on this game, because either they're going to call and then it's easy to get away post-flop. It's going to happen more often. Like this here, I can go ahead and raise. Not because ace-3 is so strong. I'm not calling with ace-3 ever, because if he has an ace, it's better than mine. They're not suited, so I have very little chances of a flush. Now, because he did that there, limps in and then calls, I'm pretty much going to fire once and then I'm done. And I'm going to go about 270, look like I have, or a jack or a queen, or maybe both, and I'm trying to get him away from that straight and that flush draw. Could have gone up to pot size, but if one of them's trapping here, I really don't want to throw away any more money than I already have. So, and you could fire out a second barrel. I almost kind of lean toward always firing a second barrel. Forming this profile of you as a really tight player because they don't know anything about you. I mean, I guess they could look at your stack size, but unless you have a huge stack, then it's just not going to stand out. There are just so many people around the starting stack range. I like the call here as opposed to a raise. If I raise and he re-raises, it just puts me in a tough spot post-flop. But because he didn't, I'm just going to check. Might as well take the right card. I at least have the jack now. I don't think he had a king. If he did, I think he would have bet to protect it from an ace. So at this point, I am going to go ahead and see that. or excuse me, I'm going to bet, not see bet. And take it down. I'm not really getting anything really good here. Shit happens. You know, I kind of like to keep 2 tables going when I play this, just so I don't get impatient. But right now, for the sake of this recording, I'll just keep it on 1 table. Try not to get impatient and lose much money in the process. It's one of the best books I have seen, is Zen and the Art of Poker. It really helps you a lot with that mindset. So this is actually a good flop for me. I can call here, and if another diamond comes off, or a 5, or a 2, or really anything that completes that flush, or a flush or straight, I can represent it. Now that he's kind of backing off, I'm going to go ahead and bet here. It's a little over 2/3. I was supposed to bet there. I'm not sure what happened, but I just have to call that. I hate you now, but I have to. So we'll see what he's got. And we had him. So, you know, maybe I could have gotten a little more out of him. That bet, though, was just really, really fishy to me. I think that's what you would consider a post-oak bluff. A lot of times that'll get people to leave. Had I made the bet that I intended to on the turn, he might have called, he might have check raised, in which case I would have been in a pretty tough spot. I'm going to bet here, not on necessarily the merit of the hand. I mean, the hand has a lot of potential, but I'm really counting on the fact that a lot of times people are going to fold. I don't have any huge stacks that have position on me, so call as opposed to raise. One of these guys might. Just because I'm talking a lot and not thinking enough, I'm trying to play a little more cautiously. That you need to have, the patience and being willing to just fold and fold and fold and fold. This hand here, I'm going to raise with, we'll see what happens after the flop, kind of take away the lead. But the big stack here, it really doesn't mean anything that he has anything. I mean, him calling, he's big, he can do that. Now the back raise there, what I mean by back raise, meaning he makes a small bet, he gets a couple of calls, and then he pushes. That tells me he's almost certainly on aces, kings, or ace-king suited. I'm actually just going to let it set out so that I can stay on the hand. If I fold, it would take me to a different table, but I want to see how this hand plays out. Just like that, knowing what I was up against. It's a very classic fish move, either a limp or a min raise from early position, and then a 4-bet or 5-bet all in, something like that. After just limping or min raising in, they're just trying to suck people in. I like it when they do that because it pretty much turns their cards face up for me. And then I know if I don't have, you know, aces, kings, maybe not even ace king, then get out of the way. Come on. There we go. Not biting. There's pretty great tournaments on here. I found that the skill level on this website to be a little bit lower than some of the larger sites, primarily because it's more for the recreational player. The anonymous tables, I hated it when it began, simply because I love my heads-up displays. But now, I appreciate it, because it really does make the tables a lot softer. You don't really have to have the heads-up displays. And especially now that they have zone, you know, and they limit you to 4 tables, as opposed to 8, 9, 10, or, you know, like you might be used to if you're a multi-table tables and that's about all you can handle. I like a raise here just because you're so likely to get so many folds. These two guys are short enough that they're really not going to get involved unless they have something reasonable. And this has a potential of backing into a draw. And I mean, you can always see that and take it down a lot of the time. Not saying every time, but a lot of the time. Especially if a larger card comes on the flop. I didn't really like that flop because he had his draws there, and if he was on a draw, he probably wasn't going to fold. The 10 didn't necessarily look strong either. But nonetheless, a lot of people fold to continuation bets way too often. So take advantage of that. And it's kind of a pricey move, but if you have a hand that you know it's not going to win, you get to a showdown. Sometimes right. Fire your flop c-bet and then your turn c-bet as well, because otherwise you're just not going to win. And again, don't do this every time. Don't go just the card looks scary enough, then you go ahead and fire that second barrel. Had to pause it there for a minute to answer some questions for my 6-year-old. It's always fun trying to play poker or record anything with 3 small children in the house, but so it goes as a poker playing parent. If he gets any calls here, I'm going to call behind, simply because he's so deep. Right now, $1.25, negative 573, looks good. Still have the big stack open and if I do hit, if it's another spade, well then I might be up against the flush, and it becomes a very murky hand. I'll try to stay out of murky hands. It's not a clear-cut fold or a clear-cut, call, raise, whatever, then just, that middle zone, any dude did a great and it goes into detail about staying out of those middle zone hands where you just don't know where you're at. I'm going to pause it for a minute. Alright, so just missed one hand there. Has an ace, something, late position, a button, or I'm sorry, not button, cut off. Open raise, 3 big blinds, got 7, I see that about 2/3 pocket folded. I like those hands, those flops where you have a big card and a pair. If they're not on here, one of them, and in which case they're not going away. A lot of middle pair hands that would have just called like that. I mean, I'm all for c-betting, but when you have this many people in the hand, although with all the folds, now it makes me think that it might have been a good move to go ahead and c-bet. Now that you're looking at your straights, straws are way too much. Fold out, done. And that big raise from him right there tells me he probably actually had a big hand. He just tried to trap with it. So I'm coming up on the end of the 15 minutes here. I'll go ahead and stop this video and start another.